Hi everybody, it's Cindy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have a tutorial for a very easy project. So if you're in the market for ideas for a quick, easy project that will use up some of your supplies, and if you are looking ahead to Christmas and you need stocking stuffers or teacher gifts or coworker gifts, this is a project that I think would work for a lot of different things. So what we're going to make is a one signature journal and a coordinating pocket using a legal sized file folder and some of the napkins you have floating around in your craft room. So this is the exemplar that I made, and it's just a one signature with different papers on the inside. Cute and fun, but nothing too dramatic. And the pocket here is embellished both on the front and back. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be using legal size file folders. Like I said, if you don't have legal size, that's not a problem. You can use two regular size file folders. And I'm using manila today. They don't have to be a manila. If you have other colors laying around that coordinate with some of your papers and napkins, that would be perfectly fine too. So besides the legal size file folder, what you're going to need are some napkins or serviettes, depending on where you're from. And I have a whole bin full. And I've done napkin swaps and bought packs and shared with my sister, and I have so many. It's crazy, and sometimes I decoupage a lot, and sometimes I forget I even have them, and so my stash has gotten uncontrollable. So I just pulled out some that I thought I might use today. Bees are always good. Some strawberries. I thought this was really pretty with seashells and corals, another strawberry, and some fall ones. I have the sunflowers and the buffalo, maple leaves, pumpkins, etc. And this great skull. And so you'll need just a couple. You shouldn't need more than two. Depending on how many layers in your collaging you do, I think two would be enough. And you'll also need some kind of a decoupage medium, like Mod Podge or gel matte medium. I'm using a matte gel. This is Master's Touch, which is the Hobby Lobby brand. Not my favorite brand. I prefer Liquitex, but I ran out of Liquitex making the example. So I am using this one, and it actually works really well. The only thing I don't like is it doesn't dry as fast as Liquitex, and Liquitex doesn't dry fast. This takes a long time to dry, which when you're in the mood to craft is kind of a letdown. And I probably today will be using a heat tool to dry my medium. If you don't have one, it's not a big deal. You can use a blow dryer. You can put it outside if you are having decent weather today to dry, or just let it air dry. Just be aware if you have not used a decoupage medium before, that you have to have some patience and let things dry. So let's go ahead then and get started. Get my paper cutter. And I'm going to, you see it opens here. I've got the tab on the right. Tab on the right or the left will work fine. Tab in the middle, not so much, because it will wind up being off center. I'm using the tab on the left today, and I'm going to flip it over so that I can cut it. So I have the back facing the front for my cut, and I'm going to cut 5 3/4 inches for my pocket. This will be the pocket. And then with the other piece, I'm going to flip it again and put the fold. See, I'm going to put the fold over here on the left, and I'm going to cut at 4.5 inches. And then I'll have two pieces left over that make perfect tags at some other point. So I'm going to put those off to the side. So then what you have is if you're using two file folders, your measurements would be, let's see, 8 and not quite 9, 4/5, 8 and 4/5 in height, and then 4.5 inches across. And then the file folder from the top of the tab is 9 and 6/10, and then 5 3/4 wide. And that will give you, once it's all sewn together, perfect size for a pocket. And I'm going to put the journal cover off to the side, and then work with the pocket first. And I'm going to use some wax paper underneath so I don't get my gel medium on my cutting mat. And I was thinking about doing Halloween, something kind of Halloween-y. I really like the skull, and I think this would be kind of a nice complement. And I need some book pages and maybe a little bit of, I've got some of that floating around, a little bit, well, actually that I need to keep, but I think that will be a good place to start. Although I don't have any kind of Edgar Allan Poe book pages handy. I'm going to grab some Poe, I think. Try to keep my theme going here. I've done a number of Poe journals recently, so I've got lots of stuff floating around. And I think a couple pages from the Fall of the House of Usher will do the trick. Okay. Because that's what I'm going to start with, the book pages. Put those off to the side. And, when you're collaging your cover or the pocket, really how many layers you do is up to you, how elaborate you want to go. And I'm going to just start with some book pages. I'm not going to do anything too elaborate. You don't have to do, book page across the whole thing. If you want to use music, that would be great. Okay, just trim this side. I love how jagged that is there, but I'm going to trim that down. If you want to ink, you could do that. So I'm going to leave a little bit of the book page just kind of peeking out the side, I think. And maybe put that there like that. And then I'm going to do both the front and the back of the pocket at the same time, and do some sewing after everything is done and dry. So this, what I have here on the left is the front of the pocket. This is the back of the pocket. And because when you flip it, this, you don't want this side to be upside down, so make sure that you have any words or music going the right direction if it matters to you. If you don't want to ink, don't worry about inking. That's all good, that's all okay. And let's see. Might put a little bit of this under there. I don't glue anything down until I'm pretty confident everything is where I want it. Put the ink away. And I do want some red on. Since this is the front, I think I'll put this on the front, which makes more sense. But I still want some red there. Now, this is dyed waxed paper. It's a lot of fun. And I'm almost out because I just love the way it feels. I love that texture. And I think that looks good. I don't think I need any more of that. So let's see. I'm going to take the napkin apart. I don't know how many plies this one is. It's at least 2. And I'm going to use tape. This one is just 2, but just a little piece of tape, enough to get it started. I don't think it was another ply. It doesn't feel like it's 3 ply, but just to be on the safe side. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same trick. I think these little ones are 3 ply. And if you don't take them apart, you can't see through the paper. It's all the fun stuff you have underneath. So just a little bit of tape. Maybe. I hope this is 3 ply. Nope. Well, I hope we can see through. We can see through some of this paper. All right. So don't need that right now. And need too much, and I don't need to, I'm not going to be worry about being careful. And if you would prefer to cut instead of tearing, absolutely fine. And I just kind of prefer on some things to have that jagged edges, and so that's why I'm tearing mine. I think it kind of goes with the Halloween theme I've got going here too. I'm going to take a little bit more off the sides, or this one side, so I can see more of my words. All right, something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. And the back of the pocket is an inch or so longer than the front, so you want to make sure that you take that into consideration when you are cutting down your paper or your music sheets or whatever, that the back is quite a bit longer, taller. It's a little too long still, so just a little trim. And then the skulls. Going to use both of these for the cover, so I just need one of those, and I have enough paper of this left for the cover too. So just 2 napkins, one cocktail size and one dinner size was enough for this project. You know, if you want to do some rubber stamping, you could stamp underneath, stamp across the back, or once it's all done and dry, you could stamp on top of the decoupage medium. You could use washi tape. Cardstock for your in your collage. I've only made a couple of these this morning. I have the one I showed you that is done, and I have another one that I've included some washi tape. That one's not bound yet though. So I'm gonna put that, I think I might need to add a little bit more red. Give it a little something to make it pop there. You would think napkins would be really easy to tear, but they're not. I don't know, the fibers in napkins go every which direction, and they tear however they want to tear. No matter how careful I am, I seem to have issues getting too close to the image. Okay. And this will go here, but I do think it needs a little bit more red underneath, just to give it a little more of a pop. Something like that. What do you think? I think I'm ready to decoupage. So I'm going to take everything off on this side and just work on one side at a time. So I'm just using standard paintbrush, and because I'm going to get put medium on the whole thing, to me it doesn't matter that I'm getting the glue on everything by the time I'm done. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. I like to make sure, whoops, it's bleeding a little bit. Some of that, make sure I don't get any red on that black and white napkin. I think it's all come off on the back of this sheet. Trying not to make a mess, and I am making a mess everywhere. Put this on here. And I am going to be inking it, so hopefully I'll be able to cover up some of that mess I made with the red. I have not used any of this waxed paper with decoupage before. So I don't know if it's this glue in specific. You want to try to make sure you don't have any air bubbles. That's why I'm going over the top again with the medium, using my brush to push any air bubbles out. And I'm going to make sure there's enough medium on here so that when I put the napkin down, it will stick. And you want to try to make sure that kind of working from, you know, the inside out will help keep the wrinkles and bubbles out. You want to make sure that the whole thing is covered. I like the texture, and I use a matte finish. I don't like it to be too shiny, so it will have a matte finish. Try to be a little bit more careful with the red. And once it dries, I'm going to put a little Fabri-Tac, I think, underneath that red. I didn't want to use any more of the gel since it made a mess. I'm not even sure what happened over here because I don't know what happened, but it'll be okay. It'll all be okay in the end. to do the other side. Trying to be careful not to get have that red smear anymore. Back over the top, more medium. And once again, trying to work from the inside towards the out. Try to minimize the wrinkles and the bubbles. And like I said before, I like to go over the whole thing so that it's got an even, consistent texture. And needs a little bit more. And then this needs to dry, and it will take it'll take a while to get dry all the way through. If you can hang it to dry and have air movement on both sides, use a table fan, or if you have a heat gun, that would be great too. And then just set that aside, and while that's drying, you can grab your cover and when you do your cover, I'm going to get a new piece of paper, wax paper. When I do the cover, excuse my arm there, I like to round the corners and then open it up and do the cover all at the front and back together. So I don't think you need to watch me do that. So I'm going to be back in a few minutes and do the cover and get everything dried and then show you what comes next. So hang on and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, I'm back. As you can see, my pocket and the cover have dried, and it is time to finish the project up. I already sewed this together. Sorry for the big pause there. I had intended to show you how I was going to sew it before I sewed it, and then I forgot and just went ahead. And if you don't have a sewing machine, that's okay. You can easily glue this together. And let me show you. I have a couple more that are already cut out. So if you don't have a sewing machine or you prefer not to stitch, you can just put a bead of glue along these two sides, glue it together, and that would be perfectly fine. Or if you want to do some slow stitching or a blanket stitch or something like that, that's all good too. I just sewed mine up on the sewing machine, and the way I did it is you can see that I stitched across here and on the back, stitched it here as well, so that it would have a finished look on both the front and the back. And so how I did that was just to sew across the front here, and then I flipped it over and sewed across the back here, and then I closed it and then sewed from the top all the way down and across the bottom. Even though the bottom doesn't need stitching, obviously, because there's a fold, I still stitched there, and then all the way up to the top, so that it would have a more finished look. And I still need to ink this up a little bit. You can see I've got some schmutz here from the red waxed paper that I'm going to go over with some brown ink and age it up a little bit. But I think it turned out pretty well. And here's the cover, and I did wonky stitching around the cover, and I went around it twice, and then need to bind it. So let me put this to the side, and you can see I have another one here that is also ready. And this one I did some zigzag stitch and some straight stitching on here and on the cover. And so this is ready now to bind. And before I bind it, I want to make sure that I reinforce the spine, and I'm just going to reinforce the inside. You know, if you want to put fabric on the outside, that's fine. If you want to put fabric on the inside, that's fine. I'm just going to use some cardstock and leave it at that. So I'm just using a piece of scrap that I had that's 1.5 inches wide by, I think it was almost 9 inches long. Not quite to the edge of the cover. And I'm just going to glue that down with Fabri-Tac. And then let it dry before I bind it all together. And the journals that I'm putting inside the pocket are going to be unembellished, just with lots of fun papers on the inside, and probably 11, 12 pieces of paper or thereabouts. I don't want to overstuff the journal so that when it's embellished, it doesn't fit back in the pocket. So I think 44, 48 pages in one signature is plenty for this little project. So I'm just going to put this in the center, make sure that my fold is good, flatten it back out, and I'm going to let it dry. And I always let it dry flat so that it the reinforcement dries flat as well. If you close it, then it's going to glue that way, and it will be harder to open and close the journal. So I'm going to just set that to the side. And I grabbed some papers already, and I have just a little bit of everything. The journal is 4.5 inches wide. Of course, once you put the paper in there, it needs to be no wider when folded than 4.25. So that would be 8.5. And a couple of these I'll probably fold over, and the rest I will trim. So I'm using all different kinds of papers. This is dyed with butterfly pea blossom, and I had some of this red left over. I've got a book page with poppies, so this will be perfect in the poppy journal. And this needs to be trimmed back, as I know from experience. And I've got music. I think this needs to be trimmed as well, about 1/4 inch. And a book page, which I know needs to be trimmed as well. This one should be fine. I think that's already just 4 inches when it's folded, not even 4. So that one will be fine. And I'm going to make the lace paper my cover. And let's see, this one is beet stain, and then kind of a standard coffee stain. And a little bit of everything in here. And this I'm going to fold for sure. I think I'll fold that one and trim back the coffee stain. Normally I do this one piece of paper at a time, but I'm being lazy. A little bit of this one. So I'm going to put the lace paper on the outside, and then just kind of randomly stick everything in here. I'm almost out of coffee stain paper, so I probably should make some more of that today as well. Looks like I need to trim this down a little bit. And it looks like I need to trim that down a little bit more, but everything else looks good. As long as I don't trim off the poppies, then it's all good. And I'm going to put this in the center. And this should be dry enough. And then I'm going to do well, that's upside down. Just a standard 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and pop that in my pocket here. Super cute. I think they turned out really nice. So this one is finished. This one I just need to bind. This one will take me another few minutes to get put together, but pretty pleased with my morning's work so far. And super easy project. They're cute. They'll use up some of your stash. You can personalize them for gifts. You should be able to come up with, if you're like me, different decoupage materials for just about every person on your Christmas list, on your your Hanukkah list, any gift giving list. Super cute. And this, I think, should be the year for handmade gifts. So I hope you were inspired today to use up some of your stash, and you take the time to make one of these cute little projects. And if you do, I would love to see it, and share pictures on our Facebook page. If you have not already subscribed, we would love to have you join us. And just hit the subscribe button if you want to get notifications. Click on the bell, and you'll be notified every time we have a new video. And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. The link to our Etsy shop will be below. And I think that's everything. So please give this project a try and share your results. And we'd love to see them. So thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Have a fantastic, fantastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.